What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and today I am excited to talk about our new partner, Underdog Fantasy, who offers pick'ems every single night in the NBA, including tonight, Thursday, November 10th. The Sixers are playing the Hawks tonight, so my pick recommendations for you on there are Joel Embiid. You're going to go higher on his points. He has 28.5 points currently. 4 assists from DeAnthony Melton. I'm going higher on that too. I think with James Harden out, he should get some more on-ball opportunities, some transition opportunities to get those assists. And then also the Sixers killer, Trae Young, 33.5 points and assists combined. If I put $10 on that, my payout is $60. And you can do this every single night. And Underdog is the only place that offers nightly draft contests as well. We actually just did our first ones for You Know Ball listeners only. We're going to be doing them every single week moving forward for the rest of the NBA season. So please follow me on Twitter at TrillBroDude if you want to compete against me in a classic 6-player snake draft where whoever scores the most points takes home all of the money at the end of the night. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to be doing it throughout the whole season. So promo code SLOPPER, use the link in the description, play their pick'em as well, or you can do a fantasy draft and compete against me every single week during the NBA season.
So we are going to do something that I've wanted to do for a while today, which is last week we did the overrated draft. For those who don't subscribe to the Patreon, you should do that. You should get access to that video and audio and all that stuff. Today, we're going to go in the opposite direction, and we're going to do a positive thing, which we don't do a lot here on the You Know Ball podcast. We're going to do the NBA prospect draft. So we're going to draft the 30 best prospects in the NBA as it stands today. We're not taking contracts into consideration. This is literally just the best players that we would want going forward. So we're projecting forward a little bit. And some guys, rookies, second-year guys, we're just thinking more long-term as opposed to literally right now. And we will go, TKR will start with the first pick. Sam will get the second pick. I'll get the third pick and the fourth pick. And then we'll do the snake draft back in the other direction, just like we did with the overrated draft. So TKR, you are the first one to go. And I think we all know that there's really only 2 players that you could possibly pick here at the top.
That is a tier I have, is 2 players.
Yes, I do as well. And I'm interested to hear who you are picking number 1 overall in the prospect draft, TKR.
So it is between the 2 aforementioned, alluded to. It is Luka Doncic or Zaire
and
Smith.
Herb John.
And there's he's just slightly below. Zaire gives you a lot in the NBA today. Almost dying is sort of a negative. Can't really fault him for that, though.
Yeah.
I don't know how far I have to scroll down in the sheet to see where he is points per career. But everyone projects he'll be right up there with Luka with averaging 36 this year.
In the anime Yu Yu Hakusho, Yusuke
I'm not familiar, but
gets benefit. Well, he almost dies as well. He actually does die and comes back to life, and that's where he gains his powers. So I have to feel that Zaire Smith is operating from similar.
Yeah, he's ready to take that leap. He's got a lot
of this character. Did this character
anytime
also have that allergy?
Right. Well, when you're out of the league for 3 years, we call it the Hassan Whiteside path, and he'll be coming back in and similarly prepared to dominate.
Just like Hassan Whiteside, he played in the tournament, the basketball tournament over the summer.
March Madness.
Yes. Yeah. March Madness, but 5 years later when you're trying to relive your college days. So, in all seriousness, are you taking Luka number 1?
Luka is my clear cut. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's a 2. It's a 1.
Yeah.
For me.
I mean, this is crazy. Like I definitely would have taken this guy number 1 if I had the number 1 pick. I wouldn't have. Because I'm picking Jason Tatum, obviously, because I'm a Celtics fan. I wouldn't have even thought of taking anyone else if I had the number 1 pick.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely would have also picked Jason Tatum number 1.
I do think I think the thing about Luka, so I'm interested to hear, because I think Luka has been the clear best prospect in the NBA for the past few years. The conversation has definitely shifted a little bit for me. And I'm going to throw up because the Sixers passed on Tatum. Literally could have just picked him. But I think the conversation can be had only due to the fact that Tatum has gotten so much better over the last few years. And his two-way presence makes it a little bit easier to team build. Like the Celtics have a much better team than the Mavericks, but it's also a little bit easier to team build around a guy who doesn't dominate the ball like Luka does, who is a much better defender, who has a lot of two-way ability. Kind of, I talked about this before. I compared it to Kawhi Leonard, where like Kawhi might not have been as good as Durant and Curry and LeBron, but there is a level of being able to build around a two-way wing who doesn't have a ton of flaws in his game that is very easy in the modern NBA. So I think we all are in agreement that number one is Luka Doncic.
No, I just said I was picking.
Oh yeah.
So please don't get me in trouble on the lot. So I honestly, dropping the bit, I think it's actually a lot closer than I thought when I like went through and I looked at the numbers for like that exact reason. You know, like especially because, and we're gonna get to another player like this, I'm sure, later on in the draft. But the heliocentrism, what does that do for winning? Like having a guy totally, as you said, dominate your offense on one side of the floor. Like, at that point, are you limited to just having like, to be polite, like grade B players? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure,
you can't have. Do you think a player like, let's say, Jaylen Brown would be happy on the Mavericks if like getting like whatever 9 shots a game or
Jalen Brunson wasn't?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think there is a level to that because obviously Luka, like on paper and just looking at the numbers, is better. But I think that there is something to be said team building wise for having that player inherently locks you into a lower tier of players. Like you are going to end up with Dorian Finney-Smith and guys like that. That are good, but are not, needle. Well, they are needle movers, but they're
not number 2 on a championship team.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's the catch-22 of he's so good you don't want him.
Yeah.
It's like
it's honestly kind of like. It's kind of like the LeBron thing. Like, it's honestly very hard to build around LeBron, as we've seen, like, for a very similar reason. Like, Chris Bosh had to really sacrifice to make that Miami Heat team work. And I think that he deserves a lot of credit.
So did Kevin Love.
And Kevin Love did, too. Like, I think that there is something to really having to sacrifice on those, that style of team. So I think it's closer than people might realize at first.
So we talked about this a little bit last night when we were talking about different like partners that you could put with Luka Doncic in the pick and roll, and the Anthony Davis archetype of player would be someone that is very appealing. He might be kind of an outlier in terms of perfect skill set to fit with a ball dominant star because he doesn't need the ball a ton to be super successful on offense, and defensively he's, at least at his peak, had a superstar level impact on the defensive end. So I do agree that it is kind of similar to the LeBron thing. LeBron is obviously LeBron, and Luka's probably the best under 20. He's 23 still, which is crazy. He's the best under 25 prospect since LeBron. If you look at every year of his career statistically, getting to the Western Conference Finals with the team that he did, carrying in the playoffs, having moments, it is similar to LeBron. It's kind of similar to Harden too, when Harden was that ball dominant guy in Houston, but Luka also has the playoff performances to be able to say that he is further along. And also that wasn't until later in Harden's career. Yeah. And, my pushback on that would be a little bit is that we saw when James Harden had Chris Paul as his partner, we saw when LeBron James had Kyrie Irving as his partner, that they were able to lift their teams. And I think the Rockets probably win the title if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt that year, beat the best team of all time, win 60 plus games, go to the finals at least, if not win the finals. LeBron did it with Kyrie. LeBron did it with Wade. I think there are ways to it, but like it is much harder to find a guy who's willing to do that role. And as amazing as Luka is, he's not LeBron. And a lot of guys would take the backseat to LeBron because he is LeBron. So it's tough to figure out, really.
Yeah. Well, and But my counter to the counter would be that Dwayne Wade was entering a different part of his career on those Miami Heat teams. Maybe not the first year, but like certainly and it was clear that it was LeBron's teams. And Kyrie Irving literally left the next year. So how happy was he? Like on that, And given that Kyrie, as we've found out in recent weeks, many of us knew, but he's a little bit of a.
Sam supports everything Kyrie's ever said.
Yeah, that's what he was telling us.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what we started the show. That was why I had to
It was off the air.
Yeah.
But I still think if you're looking for the number one offensive hub in the NBA right now, it's like you could take your pick from three guys, in my opinion. It's Jokic, it's Luka, or it's Steph. And those are the three guys as an offensive hub. What?
Interesting. I think Trae Young belongs in that.
I love Trae. I think he's and we'll get to Trae. We'll talk about Trae in a little bit.
That's who I was referencing with my heliocentrism.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that Trae is incredible, but we'll talk about Trae in a little bit. But those are the three guys that you can put in the conversation. Now, the thing is that because Tatum's playmaking's gotten a little bit better, and Luka has gotten better on defense, but Tatum is an all defense level guy, that is the argument back. I guess my whole thing is that I think the upside with taking Luka here is higher than the downside. Like, Luka, for how much he has performed statistically, for how far he has gotten into the playoffs this early in his career with a team that's not necessarily that good at all, I wouldn't want to bet against that guy at least winning a few championships and kind of figuring something out over the course of his career. So, like, he's still only 23. You could say Tatum's only 24. But I think it's much closer than it was before, but I'd still lean towards Luka just because I think historically he's going to go down as one of the 25 or 30 best players of all time, at least.
I would concur.
And I would just say the other thing that you can kind of nail Tatum on, that seems to be changing, but that where Luka kind of clears him and separates is the consistency. Yeah. Because that has always been Tatum's problem most of the years in the league. It's just he will have just these 2-month stretches where he's horrific, or just runs out of gas in the playoffs, which I
can't lift up his right arm,
which I think was an injury personally, but
I think it was made up by the Boston media, but whatever to make their baby boy feel better.
Yes,
whatever.
Right. we're coddling him. This is right. I'm an apparatchik. I'm in low Raptors mode right now. There's no truth that you can hide from
Boston media. Boston media, always known for protecting Jason Tatum and the Celtics.
We love it. We love protecting Jason Tatum. Yeah.
Oh, actually,
especially me. I've never said anything rude about it.
Never, ever negative or rude or anything.
Since draft night, you were all about him.
Yeah.
Number one guy. So, actually, speaking of, did you hear the low post where Tim was talking about?
I haven't listened to the new one.
You haven't? Okay. All right. I'll leave that be.
I'll listen to that before the next episode.
I love when Bontemps is on because
he's awesome.
It's great.
Bontemps.
Okay, so you guys have gone number one, number two. Number three, I might get some shit for this. Sam is not going to like this pick.
I figured you were going here.
At a certain point, I can't deny that Ja Morant is absolutely fucking incredible. Like, I think that the top two guys have a lot less flaws in their game. They're a lot easier to build around just because the level of talent that they are. I think we were getting into the more flawed, not perfect kind of prospects from this point on. Kind of guys who are still figuring it out, still very young, have shown flashes, have shown moments, have had huge games or seasons, but really have not put together consistent superstar level play in their career so far. And Ja Morant is now in year 4, and every single year continues to get better, continues to add to his game. I think that his situation is very good, and it's great for him because of how Memphis is drafted, how they've team built, all of that. But if the shooting is somewhat real, this guy is fucking unstoppable as a 3-level scorer and playmaker. And the one thing, the two guys I really thought about here were Trae Young, actually 3 guys. Mm-hmm. And this is definitely some recency bias with the one guy that I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. But it's Ja, Trae, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Interesting.
And
I love 2 different guys in that tier, but also had Trae. So
okay,
yeah.
So I have Trae and those 2, mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm going with Ja here is that I know that Trae has. Like, I think offensively is about as complete of an offensive player that you can get. And I know that defensively, Ja's also very bad. But Ja at least has the tools that I can talk myself into, the tools and the athleticism that I think that he might figure out a way to not be the worst defender in the NBA in a way that I don't think that Trae is. It's not Trae's fault. It's just his tools and size. Mm-hmm. It's that he at least has some theoretical defensive upside that he could potentially tap into to get to just be a bad defender and not a disastrous one. So there's that. And then there's also the fact that, like, every time I watch Trae Young against these super long teams, like the Raptors and the Heat and even like I talked about this earlier. I guess my thing with Trae is like, and I'm going to pick Trae at 4 because I'm going to go John Trae.
I thought I was getting my number 3 guy at 5. Damn.
So yeah. I'm going to pick Trae at 4 regardless. But the one thing that I don't fear as much with Ja that I do fear with Trae is that how do you win a playoff series against Boston Celtics, against the Milwaukee Bucks, when you have Trae Young on your team? And while it's not the most important position defensively, there's got to be a team or a coach that figures out like what the Heat did last year, targeting him on defense, giving him nightmares on offense by just throwing a ton of long defenders at him that he cannot create separation against and do what he did against the Sixers a few years ago. And yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up, but
you got to warn me first.
but we need a content warning on that. Yeah.
Trigger warning.
Yeah. Trigger warning.
Hawk Sixer series mentioned here.
Hawks mentioned coming. Ben Simmons passed up the dunk. Warning.
So, God damn it, Sam. So I was trying not to bring up all of the specifics, but so the reason that I have Josh slightly ahead of Trae is due to the fact that I think the defensive upside, and I don't think that there are a ton of teams that are going to make it, like, it's not going to be impossible to beat them just because Ja's on your team. I think it might be difficult due to the fact that he's also a bad defender and that he might struggle in certain matchups. But I'm going to take Ja. I'm completely contradicting myself. I've been a Trae is better than Ja guy for a while, but I just think that I'm going to slightly go with Ja over Trae. So it's going to be Ja at 3 and Trae at 4.
Thoughts on Ja being a highlight merchant?
That was my whole thing. I was a Ja denier because I was watching games of him where he was honestly disappearing in the playoffs last year in a way that I was surprised by, because I thought he was going to be the big moment guy. And eventually he did kind of figure it out throughout the course of that series, had his big moments in that series. But, like, I think the thing that I really underestimated is Ja's combination of athleticism and scoring, of course, but also he's a brilliant playmaker and passer. He's a super manipulative, off the dribble playmaker and passer that I think that as Memphis gets better, as they grow together, I think that he really has potential to be like the 1A on a contending team in a way that I didn't really see because of some of his struggles last year. And like the team was really good without him and all of that shit. So I don't know. I think that I still think that it's very, very close, but Ja's a little younger, Ja's more athletic, and I'm going to give the nod to Ja right now.
I can't believe you did this to Trae. Not only do I not get Trae, you also make him be behind Ja Morant.
Let's go.
This is truly some nasty business. So I'm going to be passing over Shai here, actually. Sam Presti jail. 2022. And I'm going to go, maybe I'll get a little bit of shit for this, but I'm actually going to go with Zion Williamson.
Okay.
That's what I was going to take.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear this because I'm worried about Zion. I'll just leave it at that. I'm a little worried about. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be. I have him much lower on my list than I had anticipated. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I think, when we're talking about the reason that Luka clears Jason Tatum being undeniable upside versus, the downside, I think Zion Williamson, even more so than like Ja Morant, when he pops, you really fucking see. like you can see the championships, you can see the absolute domination. I could see him being, this might be a little bit of blasphemy, and I could see him being a diet Giannis in the playoffs, just in terms of absolutely controlling tempo, bullying teams
on offense.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying. Honestly, I think he could get there. Some of that stuff, again, going back to what we're talking about with Ja Morant, I think there's like some effort stuff, and I think that kind of putting him in a Rob Williams role, where, and weak side defender, sort of the free safety. You've got somebody else, taking the primary assignment. You've got an Al Horford, a Jared Allen, whoever, and you kind of let Zion do some of this stuff. Like maybe he doesn't have, the best instincts of some of these other guys, but I just think, he has pretty decent creation chops, and he's just like absolutely a force and like unstoppable. So I don't know. I know he's always injured. That's a risk I'm willing to take. And I will take him 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I was hoping Zion was going to fall to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because we were talking about like someone to like Luka needs a guy like an AD type, which is extremely rare. And Zion's not going to give you that on defense at all. But that offensive just sort of 2 or 1B, I guess. I don't think Zion's ever going to be a true 1B. But if he was a 1B next to a Luka, that team would just be
that would be
unfathomably
yes.
good. Yeah.
Yes.
Just 2 chunk boys. One can jump, one can't.
Yeah. I was gonna say that team, that is definitely a team where there would, like, let's just say the personal chefs would be heavily involved in that team.
No fat shaming. It means we're not Pat Riley over here.
Right. I am Pat Riley. I'm running my team like Pat
you
Riley.
are fat shaming.
I'm threatening to fight my team, my guys. I'm Irish pretending to be Italian. We've established this last thing.
Yeah.
So I will.
So the only thing I will say, just to wrap up the Zion thing, is that I'm worried for a few reasons. One, I'm worried because I really do think that his defense, as a prospect, I thought he was going to be awesome defensively. I thought that he was going to be, and I can't cop and say that I've watched a ton of Pelicans games this year. I really haven't. So I can't really speak on his defense so far this year. But from what I saw in the past defensively, there were a lot of concerns there. And then there's also the injury stuff. And then he's also playing a more important position defensively to me than Ja and Trey, which is why I was a little bit skittish on choosing him above these guys. Just, I think there's a number of factors that build up. Offensively, he's obviously an amazing talent. No one would deny that. Was in his second season the most efficient post scorer in since Shaq. He's absolutely incredible. I can't deny that. But I that's the only thing that I have that is a little bit concerning to me, and why I had him a little bit lower than I expected.
Yeah, I just think he's a 16 game star. You know what I'm saying? Instead of a regular season star, some other people, John Morant. So very interesting.
Look, you got to get to the playoffs before I can say you're a 16 game guy. So
they took the Suns to 6 games, defending.
He wasn't playing.
This is his spirit.
Imagine if he plays.
Imagine if he plays.
Theoretically, he wasn't even on the sideline. He was
his aura was with them.
Yeah, it was like he had a Force ghost that was there, like in Star Wars.
Yeah,
it was a blue one behind the thing. That's how good he is on defense. That Jose Alvarado saw that and started hounding Chris Paul.
Yeah, Zion was levitating in a Popeyes while they played for him.
I love That picture, the picture of him in the Popeyes drive-thru with the
It
teen.
rocks.
Yeah, it's so cool, man.
It's so awesome.
I love.
Yeah.
I hope Zion just keeps doing that and B stays in shape. Like I hope it's not like a bad thing. I just want him to be just a chunky boy enjoying himself. And
it's
being
Luka drinking a beer the night after a game 6 or whatever.
We love it.
Just
dominating.
Drinking at like 11 a.m. It's like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like me for real.
Yeah, Luka inspired one of my favorite posts of all time from Celtics Riley, which was like so funny because it's obviously some white kid from Boston, and he's like, "Look at this lazy European, like in the off season, like doing racism against European whites, basically, and then showing Jason Tatum lifting and working out." And I was like, "Wait, what?" He was like, "If you want to be great, you gotta work for it." And Luka's like smoking the hookah.
There might be Celtics Riley.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. She might be Baltic affiliated. Like we're sure she's not. we might have to look into this.
Oh, might have to edit that part out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, all right, we can move on. I forgot that there's shit going on over there again. All right, my bad.
Jeez.
All right, well, I'll move it on. Perfect segue from Baltic relations. I'm going to take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Let's go. SGA.
And that is my second sort of heliocentric type ball dominant guy. I love watching him. I think amazing. He's like the under the rim highlight merchant that people love about Ja Morant. Like Ja's gonna have his dunks and everything, but Shai does like 3 things a quarter that like get me to audibly gasp. And I'm just like, there's no way he just did that smoothly, like that effortlessly. Every screenshot of his shin like parallel to the ground while he's stopping on a driver, like shin angle shout out, ankle flexibility shout out.
We love it.
Or he just
functional athleticism.
There we go. Get all the buzzwords. He seems to he'll never get there in the next 5 years, but he has that 16 game mentality that Sam talks about, where he just like seems like if he was in that moment, he could just take over and he'd like be able to punch God a little bit.
I agree. Yeah,
defense is fine. Insane playmaker.
Everyone says the defense is better this year too.
It's fine. Yeah. It's sometimes he just doesn't care. Which if I was that good on offense, I probably wouldn't really either. Yeah. But he's already had so many moments where he's just proven to be, the most steady metric. Him, it's unbelievable. I hope Sam Presti does go to jail actually a little bit.
He needs to go to jail.
We're really never going to see him, and I love the Thunder, but I just need playoff Shai really bad.
I think the one advantage this year they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying that, but the one advantage this year to everyone trying to compete is that like the Thunder, even with Shai, just aren't good enough to make the play-in or the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And it might be the first year where he just lets them cook because no one's trying to tank this year. Like no one is like, at least right now is like,
we'll say, well, the Jazz have already banked 9 wins. Like that's a great head start. Like
exactly.
Yeah. And the Spurs are pretty good too. What did the Spurs won like 7 games or something like that? Like
the Spurs the Spurs are 5-6.
They're 5-6. Yeah.
I would kill myself if my team were 5-6. That's the Sixers' current record.
Hey, so you're saying the Sixers are just in the exact same position as the Spurs to get Victor?
Except the Nets have their pick.
No, I don't care. I always forget that.
They'll get it back.
They'll just ask politely. Like, can you take this Ben guy back? And we'll just give you the pick too.
Let's go. I'll do it. Let's do it. It sounds like one of our fake trades from the last episode, and just as believable. Mm-hmm. So the one thing I want to say about Shai is the reason why I think I took Ja and Trey over Shai is that Shai has had mixed with the shooting. Shai has had a mixed bag where like the fake season, he looks awesome shooting wise. He's drilling pull-ups, self-created looks. And then this season and last season, he's just been an inconsistent shooter. He's only shooting like last year he shot in the high 20s, this year low 30s, like 30%. So are you concerned at all about Shai's shooting? Because he's shooting like 15% on pull-up threes. He's shooting better off the catch, but still not great. Do you think that that's something that would be concerning because he showed that he can shoot in the past, but he's changed his shot. And like when you get into the playoffs, like I do think that Shea being such an elite driver, playmaker, finisher, scorer, all that shit will be super beneficial in the playoffs. But are you concerned that the shooting might be, a little bit of a wart on his game in the biggest games?
Not overly concerned, no, just because the pedigree is there. I think I forget the exact stat. It was either last year or the year before. He was shooting like 43% on pull-up threes, or on pull-up threes, and 55% of his threes were unassisted.
Yeah.
Like, that's just bonkers insane. Like, that just doesn't happen. And I think not the sample size, but like the opportunities aren't there for him to like almost self-improve and take it seriously. Like you see guys like Joel, whose teams are like, they need him to improve, them to improve in order to like win games. There has to be some sort of just like Shea's going out there fucking around because like he just sort of can. So hopefully this year he can like actually start to make, and like, who the fuck am I to say that maybe he is like really trying to make strides in his game and just no one watches the Thunder, me included.
Well,
but, like,
he still has the toughest shot diet in the NBA. Like
yeah,
their spacing is terrible. They're really just starting to get real NBA talent around him.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the first year that he's played with actual NBA talent. And
you mean Lindy Waters the third isn't NBA talent?
No disrespect to Vit Krejci, but I just don't see it with him.
No.
But like I'm with you when it comes to Shea. I think that we talked about this earlier in a group DM, and I was like, I mean, if Shea was ever the number 2 on a team, I think he could work too, as long as the shot comes around. So like you have the potential that he's like the number 1 option on a contender, and also it's possible that he's scalable enough that he's just like an insane kind of off-ball guy as well. And I think that the defense, when locked in, he can be good. He certainly has the tools to be good on that end, and has had his rookie season. He was a pretty good defender. So like, I think even in the second season he was too. So that's the two-way ability is there for Shea as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you enjoyed this preview, please subscribe to the Ball Patreon. The link is in the description. You can get this 2-hour-long episode plus a bunch of extra content, including an extra episode of Ball every single week, access to the Discord, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So please subscribe today if you are able to. Thanks.